Part 2, 3:01 in the morning, West Coast times, the November 1st, 2023. So, David's home. He came home, surprised Ma, surprised me. We're both grateful that he came home from the Navy. But we really didn't know the story, and I was too damn young to understand what the hell was going on. I'm a teenager trying to deal with shit going on with the grandma and her stress. Grandma was home because she was stroked out. Ma and her had an argument. This is like months after, or actually weeks after we moved into this place from Arleta to Granada Hills, and we were still dealing with the death of Aunt May. Grief was hitting both of them hard as hell. Don't even ask about how the hell I was trying to deal with that damn grief because it was knocking my ass out. But I still had to do what I had to do, which was go to school. Before we moved out of Arleta, I already graduated out of elementary school, and I was doing the first semester in the 7th grade. And in the 2nd grade, I'd be doing it at home in Granada Hills, in a house that was still cluttered as hell because we had the movers shove shit into the house and made things almost impossible for us to live in, but we did. But Ma and Grandma were getting at each other, and I know now as an adult the grieving in the morning was hitting them hard. It was hitting them hard, and they were loggerheads at that point. So it was decided that Grandma was going to be visiting the rest of her kids for a short time, just to get some space between Ma and her to cool down a bit. So where else would they go? San Diego, where Uncle Bill and the rest of the guys were hanging out. And while she visits San Diego, she gets a stroke. Winds up in a hospital. Ma hears about this one. I'm sent over to a friend of mine, the family and the friends that we just made. Dee and our family, that is. And I'm sitting there for about a weekend. Ma had to go down to San Diego. She drove the car all the way down there. She was going to bring Grandma back home. Well, they did by ambulance. Ma had to make arrangements, talk to the doctors, and also have an argument with Uncle Bill. So the arrangements were made. Ma was bringing Grandma back home, get her stabilized at the hospital. And then we had to have our bedroom for Grandma bed taken out and a hospital bed be replaced. Grandma's permanent bed for up until the point she passed. I was told what was happening when I got back home and saw Ma there, and there's Grandma. And how the hell's a kid supposed to be able to deal with this kind of crap? In between 2 semesters, now I got to deal with an elderly grandma that I love like crazy, and she's like this. What the hell happened with her? Oh God, I was pissed. Imagine David was even worse when he found out about the damn thing. Next thing I know, here comes Big Brother coming from the Navy. So about a year and a half, or just about a year and a half, he's home. I think it's about a year. I just losing track of time during those days. But he's home. He's going to help Ma out. The Navy wasn't exactly helping because he left the Navy on unauthorized absence. You don't do this kind of shit and not get punished for this one. This comes later. So Dave is getting part-time jobs left and right, or trying to get full-time work. And he had to be careful and cagey about this one because he didn't want the Navy to be finding out about it. And as soon as they did find out about it, he was gone through the wind. So there were places that he ditched, places that he went to. And He didn't want to go back. He was home. He had to deal with the shit at home, and he was feeling comfortable about it to a point. Uncle Bill came by. My brother wasn't there. But the one time that he was, Uncle Bill made the ultimatum. My uncle was a cop, state officer, special investigator, criminal history, criminal psychology background. He was working for the state of California, a special investigator assigned out in San Diego at the time. He got his degree in criminal psychology, so he became a doctor. He was also well known in the U.S. Marines, being a boxing champion on the West Coast. He did that in his earlier days. He was also a war veteran not in Vietnam, but in Korea, and he never talked about that to anybody. Certain things that I discovered when I was talking to other veterans in my lifetime is certain actions and certain things they don't talk about, not even to themselves. The other guys would know because if they've already been through something similar, they didn't have to understand the details. They knew already. Uncle Bill kept his military secrets to himself, except to my brother. And they both take him to the grave. When my brother was home, Uncle Bill saw him, talked to him. I gave him an ultimatum. If Uncle Bill ever comes back this way, and he catches my brother, he's got to arrest him because he is an officer of the court. My brother had to turn himself in, and he did. He went in, turned himself over to Long Beach. They got him processed down there. He did part of his, while they were processing him out, takes a long time, I guess. He was sent over to a particular place out in Oakland, I guess. They actually, one second. Yeah. There was a special there was a special school, correspondence kind of a school that actually had Navy was running up there. And part of the punishment was he wasn't going to be leaving base up there. He was supposed to help maintain it as best as he could with a few other guys who were also going through processing. And there was electrical fire. My brother and a few other guys almost got blamed for this one. But it was just shorted wiring. They had to make sure that the plug outlets were working. And they didn't overload any of the extensions over there. Somehow, wiring was frayed. And school burned down. My brother was telling me this story. Really didn't put a good mark on him. My brother had gone through processing through the legal, and apparently the prosecutor wanted to throw the book at my brother. He was going to do time in Leavenworth and then discharged dishonorably. He talked to his attorney, my brother did, and they tried to make arrangements with the court to get him out of the bad conduct. At least it was a stage above dishonorable. At least you're still a U.S. citizen. You're able to vote. You're able to get a job. But for any kind of medical or any other kind of benefits you're going to get from the military, forget it. The only thing they'll acknowledge you is being part of the service and bury your ass accordingly. Not with fanfare either. Yeah, well, despite the fact my brother had tried being a 4-0 sailor, but some of the times that he was screwing up, well, not exactly a 4-0 sailor. The time that he spent with me and Ma and Grandma, that was the kicker right there. And I'm also remembering the people that he hurt, and also one particular guy that screwed around with my brother that was also out in the military. Actually, he was escaped out of prison and he had been hiding ever since. Never knew what the hell this guy was. Roger D. Reeves. The hated name throughout my brother's lifetime. I never met the guy. Never recognized him in his pictures. I didn't know what the hell he looked like. But this was the man that damn near destroyed my brother. Yeah, shut up, stomach. When my brother was out there waiting for, sentencing, actually when he got sentenced, he was going to spend time in prison, but they changed his orders on that one. There was a minesweeper that was going to be traveling. They didn't have a boiler technician. Not a suitable one anyway, and they needed someone who can rebuild their damn engine and put it back together again, at least a boiler part. And my brother knew that because he was a boiler technician. When he was in the Navy, he was rising up in rank and the rate. Always became chief petty officer, but he just became a petty officer at times and then dropped that down to a third class. Always became first class, but he dropped him down to a second class. But that's okay. He saw the boiler. He told the guys how to fix it. They didn't know how to fix it, so he fixed it. And in order to fix this thing, he's got to be with these guys. He's got to be reassigned. It wasn't my brother's request on this one. He was just assigned to the work party. They needed a boiler technician to work on the damn thing, and he was there. A couple of days later, they got the boiler working. They were in Long Beach, I think, at the time. The crew was so happy about it that the CO put a request in, and it was granted. My brother would not leave the ship, but he'd be part of the crew. He'd have freedom on the ship, but he wouldn't get off. Wherever the ship would travel, wherever the sweeper would travel, my brother would be with him. That was his prison. He was going to be assigned over permanently, I guess, to Diego Garcia. It was one of the harder prisons in the U.S. Navy to deal with. He'd be making asphalt like crazy, the hard way, breaking rocks, hard work. Back there in the 70s and the 80s as well. In the early 80s, my brother was on a ship and he was engineering. It was the best time he said he ever actually had in the Navy. Everyone treated him with utmost respect, and he treated everyone else with utmost respect. I wish I remember what the damn ship's name was. He got back to port, back to States. His discharge already came through. He was out. gave him his back pay, and he came back home. We were still living in Granada Hills during that time. I already had about 2 or 3 years of school underneath my belt during that time. He was part of something special, and things happened and fall from grace. The first video I was doing, I was sending it over to Art to let him know what was going on. Because something he said about, or tried to put in there, regarding the seals, I think something screwed up on that one, so I don't know if he's actually got it in there or not. But my brother had connections in the United States Navy for a little bit. We had something special with him for a short time. And the thing of it is, in his discharge, he was not to wear any military garb at all. Meaning he couldn't wear his patches and he couldn't wear his pins. They'd taken away his honor and everything else, and it was something my brother went through. Some of the decisions my brother had made in the Navy brought him to that point. Some of the choices were not good choices. It was either you served the Navy or else you were just nothing. You ever heard the expression God, King, and Country? God was second place. The United States Navy was it. Then there's God, then there's family. And the United States Navy was also part of the U.S. government. He failed in that one. But he did it for the right reasons, he kept telling himself. I don't know how Ma would have been able to deal with it without David there, to tell you the truth. I honest to God, I don't know. Because if the Navy had been able to interview me during the time as a kid or a teenager, I probably would have given a teenager's perspective on this one. My brother had done all of his life since getting discharged out of the Navy. He was trying to get his discharge upgraded. He put into paperwork for so long. Either get lost or rejected one way or another. He told me that there was two review boards, one in San Diego and one in San Francisco. San Francisco was too formal, but San Diego had a little bit more of an informal review board. He was hoping to get that one because he could tell people what the hell was going on. He would produce character references at the time to telling people how changed person he was after the military and some of the connections he still had. Hopefully there was a way for him to get his discharge upgraded, and it never came. It never happened. My brother gave up the last few years of his life. And not to mention we lost the damn paperwork. Well, we got moved from out of a trailer home getting evicted to here. We had put the rest of our stuff in storage and furniture and stuff. Other videos I've got covers this, but I had to put this one on the record. We had a storage unit, my brother and I had. 3 families worth of furniture and crap we could have put into the trailer home, but the rest of it had to be put into a storage. And we had to do the storage. We had no choice. Everything was crammed in one particular trailer home, and we got an eviction situation happening there. We had it for about a year and a half, fighting the landlord and the leasing agent because of changes they made to the damn paperwork that we didn't see. We didn't really read the fine print on that damn shit, did we? We got screwed over in that one. So my brother and I had gotten the trailer home right after Mama's death, back in 2013. Well, we didn't care when we signed the line because we actually had our roof over the head and we were grateful for that one. We didn't see the price that was going to be paid on this one. Heavily on this one. And in the records, the paperwork that we lost of my brother's actually had all the transcripts and everything else he needed and the signatures from everybody else. Gone completely. Lost forever. I don't know where the hell they are. Probably in someone else's hands or shredded up or buried in a garbage pile somewhere. There's no way to know. There's no way to know. My brother had held on to two things when he got out of the Navy: his integrity, his self respect. Somebody that he had connections with in the Navy gave him a bit of more metal than that. He retained his Budweiser and his jump wings. I got him still. I don't have a memorial for him, but I still have him. The memorial I got is him up there in a cabinet with his butt kit for his ashes. I had talked about this one. I barely remember this. I really didn't go over the history about my brother as much. At least I'm not quite sure if I remembered it or not. My brother would watch the movies before he went into the Navy of the military. There was a movie called Frogman that really impressed the crap out of my brother. I don't know if it was a fictional or if it was a documentary, but it was something my brother was watching. And he was so impressed with the frogman, he wanted to be a frogman. That's why he got into swimming so much. And that's what got him to David Cameron. And that's what got him up to the point where he was. But the thing is, when he came out of the Navy, he was still suffering at the time of being under the influence. Drug abuse had started. It wasn't part, at least I'm not quite sure if it actually was part of his issues, going through the unauthorized absence, including the major one, but I know he went out drinking for a while. When he came back home, and we were still living in Arleta, not Arleta, I miss Arleta, Granada Hills, back in McKeever. It was right by Kennedy High School, walking distance. And I was still going to junior high, and I'm trying to remember when the hell he got out. I think about 82, 83, I think. He was there for Grandma's funeral. I think it was about 82, 83, somewhere in there. He was struggling like crazy. He was doing drugs and alcohol during those days. He hid the drugs, and he didn't drink in front of Mom. But while she was going to work, and then he needed to get more drugs. He had a few people to go through. He started to develop a connection for this stuff. It was hard seeing my brother go through this kind of stuff because I didn't know what the hell he was going through. I didn't realize at the time, and neither did he until he actually did a 4-step on this one, that he really, really had to dig deep on this one. And finally, he remembered what the issues were. Some of the treatment he had in the Navy, including that a character I mentioned in the previous video, it scared him more than anything else. It made him fear, and it also made him angrier at it. From a happy guy into a pissed off dude. That was my brother. At the time. Got so damn moody I wasn't even sure who the hell he was anymore. And one of my best friends in high school, connections about him, and my brother trying to deal with shit. Sorry, my blood sugar's going crazy. I'm already feeling it right now as it is. Anyway, my brother and I did trips over to San Fernando. And we had to tell Ma something about it. Didn't like telling her something about it. You never tell Ma anything about this kind of stuff because she'd kick your ass out of the house faster than anything else. And unfortunately, it got to the point where we did that to my brother right after high school graduation. His behavior was so damn bad. We had no choice but to do that to him. I didn't realize I was going to be starting my own damn career during that time, ending myself in damn support programs. I loved my brother. I really did, but I was afraid of him. It turned out to be Mr. Hyde. 3 months after we drop kicked him out of the home, he comes back as a walking skeleton. I talked about this one a while ago. And I was afraid of dealing with the skeleton. I really had mixed feelings that I didn't want him around anymore, but I wanted him around, but I didn't like what he was. A person with so much issues, I didn't know who the hell he was anymore. I talked to Ma about it on the phone when Dave came home. And Ma said, keep him there. Get his cigarettes when you need to. Get him what he wants. But don't let him out of your sight. I'll come home. Oh, sure, she came home hours later. My brother and I had dinner ready for her. She didn't want to sit down and eat, so she threw something else on, went over to a 12-step support meeting she was going to at the time. And she came home with a name and a contact. Food was already put away. She was going to eat later, I guess. Called if necessary, or otherwise she already had dinner. But she gave an ultimatum to my brother. You call this number in the morning, or else you're out of the house. We didn't know and didn't realize when my brother had gotten to that low point, he almost damn near killed himself. Unfortunately, YouTube and Google have their own algorithms watching out for certain keywords. Let's just say that if I happen to talk more about it, it violates community guidelines and other things going on. Yeah, but my brother had already committed himself before coming home and asking for help. He had already committed himself to that final pathway. He had already lost a woman that he loved for a long time, and I didn't realize he had a relationship going on. Didn't tell me or Ma, but he had. And she passed away right in front of him. That broke him right there. And he was going to join her. But the cops found him first, put him in a hospital for 72 hours, psych eval. And he comes out with a decision to live. He called the number the next day. My mother was watching David all the night. Every so often she would go over there to see if he was still breathing or not. You see the skeleton lying, literally a skeleton lying on the damn couch with the blanket over him. He barely was breathing. Scared the hell out of her. He called, talked to a guy, and they started their journey. The journey to get my brother clean and sober. 32 years before he passed. Thank God. I wanted to get this one over to Daryl because he was going to say something about military at this point. So I guess there's going to be part 3 coming up.